99.3 Nigeria Inc. for a very lovely morning to you. Again, thank you for remaining with us. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. This is the Morning Crossfire. And we come your way weekdays, Monday through Friday. News and current affairs is our forte. If you want to hear the latest and, of course, the best of analysis of current affairs issues, you better be here. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Wemimo Adewuni. You're welcome to the show. This is the last part of the show, and this is where, of course, we're talking about the past elections. We've been waiting and itching to do an appraisal of the 2019 elections.
Right.
The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal just wrapped up 180 days after the results were announced. So that is what the Constitution allows. And there is the judgment has been given. So we're doing an appraisal of how the election went, the candidates who contested in that election, if they should even have been a part of the election, although the judgment has been given and the PDP says they're going to the Supreme Court. So we would have joining us on the show today Liboros Oshoma, constitutional lawyer, public affairs analyst, also Barrister Festus Okoye, National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC. They'll be joining us over the phone shortly. You can join us on Facebook and Twitter. Also, you can watch us live Facebook and YouTube. If you're reaching us on Twitter, use a hashtag Morning Crossfire so we can get all your messages and tweet at Nigeria Info FM. You can also leave us a message on WhatsApp 08095975805.
That's right. Please remember that all our portals are open for your engagement, because we would like to hear from you as we go along on the show this morning. So let's get on with the show, shall we? According to news reports published across national dailies last week, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal struck out the petition of the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, who were challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari in the February 23, 2019 presidential election. Now, in a unanimous verdict in Abuja last week, Friday, the five-member tribunal led by Mohammed Garba upheld that the petitioners failed to prove any of the issues brought before the tribunal convincingly. They failed. Now, it however ruled that President Buhari was not only eligible to contest in the election, but that he also won the said election. In order to provide a perfect context to today's topic, it is essential, it's very, very important to recall that earlier this year, the Independent Electoral Commission, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, claimed that President Muhammadu Buhari polled 15,191,847 votes, while Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, got 11,262,979 votes. This therefore implies that President Muhammadu Buhari won the February 23, 2019 election with a margin of 3,928,869 votes. However, on the 18th of March 2019, news reports indicated that Atiku filed a petition to challenge Buhari's victory. Reports indicate that Atiku and his party, the PDP, believe that they won the election. According to the PDP's presidential candidate, he claimed that he scored 18 million. That's what he claimed. 18,356,732 to defeat President Muhammadu Buhari, whom he said scored 16,741,430 votes. Now, this simply implies that Atiku and his party, in their petition, insisted that the data they secured from INEC server revealed that they clearly defeated Buhari with over 1.6 million votes. Hence, having heard the arguments of Atiku, the PDP, Buhari, APC, and INEC, the Presidential Election Tribunal's final verdict pronounced President Muhammadu Buhari as the winner of the 2019 presidential election.
So we're trying to reach out to our guests who will be joining us over the phone, especially Barrister Festus Okoye and also Liboros Oshoma to join us on the conversation. Once they do, we have Liboros Oshoma joining us right now. Liboros, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good to have you join us on the show today. Yeah, you're welcome. We also will soon have joining us Barrister Festus Okoye on the show today. We've started off by looking at the judgment given by the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Last week, we had representatives of the APC and the PDP on the show, and Barrister Bolanle Lugbani right in the middle, trying to sort out exactly how both parties feel about that judgment. But then the questions have been on the table. The big questions surround the issue of the server, the certificates of the president, amongst other things. So let me start with you, Liboros. The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has said that President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC remain the winner of the 2019 election. The PDP says they don't believe in that judgment. It's full of errors, and they would be going to the Supreme Court. When you heard the judgment, what was your impression of the 5-man panel and their decision?
Thank you, Wemimo, and good morning, Lagos. First and foremost, I think it is high time a lot of us begin to look at decisions of courts as regards election and electoral matters in Nigeria. When we do that, we understand the trajectory our election is going, and then we'll be able to understand the areas we need to push for amendments. But if we don't, it will be difficult for us to really, have a transparent democracy. I say this as a foundational statement because I have had cause to read extensively, most of this, especially Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judgments as regards the election, governorship election, senatorial elections and the rest. And because I started asking myself, why is it difficult to upturn elections in Nigeria? And I discovered that, because first and foremost, the law is what the court says it is. And so once a court interprets a position of the law, it becomes that position as distinct from what is written in the paper of the law. And so I discovered that first and foremost, election, the ballot by the provisions of the law is held to be sacrosanct. And so in most cases, the courts restrain themselves from interfering with the overall outcome of the decision taken by the people at the poll, except there is manifest irregularities in that decision, by the people. And to that extent, you find out that most decisions by the courts are either for a rerun, go back, or in some cases when it is outrightly, injustice, manifest injustice is done. And I said, okay. But the big question is, what the politicians do now? They technically rig you out. By technical rigging, if, for example, I know Wemimo is strong in VI, for example, that is strong with, has a lot of supporters there.
Okay.
I ensure that in VI, a lot of people don't come out to vote, or they don't get the necessary materials to vote. So once that happens, I know that the people that would ordinarily have voted for Wemimo won't, be able to vote. Because if Wemimo goes to court and says his people were disenfranchised, the question the court will ask her is that, how did you know that these people, if they were allowed to vote, all of them would have voted for you? So you don't count numbers that didn't vote.
Right.
And so it becomes an uphill task for a petitioner to prove irregularities in election. And so the area I am looking at really is how we should elevate our election and electoral process to ensure electronic transparency. This manual process that we are doing, otherwise the outcome of the Court of Appeal judgment is what you will consistently have. I don't see any different. The Supreme Court departing from what the Court of Appeal has stated in that judgment. So that was my
Remember
reaction.
that for the results of the election itself, as with every election, different parties in that election will hold different opinions. If the other person wins, you feel you should have won. and you would believe that you did all you could to ensure that in fact, if possible, all of Nigerians voted for you. And you would then have a hard time proving that. But proving this would require going through INEC, because INEC is the regulator here that conducts elections. So neither of the parties can prove anything happens at the election without INEC. So, yes. So, how do we assess the role of INEC? You remember INEC also had questions to answer in that elections when the PDP claimed, irregularities, card reader issue, server issue, amongst others. How do you rate, the effectiveness of INEC during the elections and after?
Wemimo, you see, a lot of us, it's so unfortunate in Nigeria that once we are part of government, we forget the agitation of yesteryears. If you remember before now, those people who are in government today, the APC, they had, when they were in opposition, one of the major calls for reforms in the electoral process was like, the burden of proof should no longer be on the petitioner, but should be on INEC that conducted the election. The onus of regularity of election once results are announced should no longer be the presumption of regularities of election once results are announced should no longer be in favor of INEC. That once there is a dispute as to regularity of the election, that INEC should prove that the election were regular. That was the argument then, even during the waste panel reports. But unfortunately, that argument had been jettisoned because now those people who were propounding those arguments then are now in government.
But that particular argument, how would that work? I mean, if INEC has to prove at every allegation that the election had no irregularities, don't you think that would be too burdensome on INEC? If all the candidates in the election then,
That is the burden placed on the petitioner now. That's the burden placed on the petitioner. That the petitioner must prove that there were irregularities in every polling unit and that the irregularities were substantial and it affected the overall outcome. The court, by interpreting the Electoral Act, admits that there can be irregularities, but that if it is not substantial enough, then it will affect the overall outcome. If you remember the Supreme Court decision in Buhari and Obasanjo. The Supreme Court agreed that, yes, there were irregularities in Ogun State. The result of the vote in Ogun State were higher than I think, Akere voters or so. But that it was not substantial enough to affect the overall outcome. That is the burden placed on the petitioner. The petitioner now is the one to prove. Meanwhile, like your question said, the petitioner is not the person that conducted the election. The election was conducted by an independent body.
But if the petitioner is saying that there were irregularities, shouldn't the petitioner be, told to prove it? I mean, you're the one alleging.
Sheriff, that's where I'm coming to. The first hurdle for the petitioner is immediately after the election. He has 21 days within which to file a petition. And most of the materials he wants to use to file the petition will be obtained from INEC. He will need to apply for CTCs from INEC. Right. And so, INEC, you get to INEC office after election, it's a beehive, of activities going on. So everybody is jostling to get materials for their own elections, certified through copies. In some cases, you don't get all because you have a window of 21 days. Right. And if you don't, then it's bye-bye. And so when all of these are happening, how do you expect that the petitioner will be able to, surmount that of his task?
Remember also that INEC would want to insist that the elections, were not manipulated. If INEC gives you all the materials that shows that there were irregularities, it's not in their favor. So it looks like the petitioner is not just up against other candidates, but also up against INEC.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm getting my drift now. And so if the materials are not in INEC's favor, they won't release such materials. Maybe in some cases they release them to you after the window of 21 days. And so by which time you'd have been out of time to file your petition. So the petitioner will gather the little that they can have and then approach the tribunal. to file their petition.
Let's talk about what you started with, Barrister Oshoma. You started with irregularities and things that happened during the last election. And my worry is because you said that in some states when a party knows that this is your stronghold, they will do everything to frustrate that your voters, your followers actually vote for you. And now going to the appeal to the tribunal, it now behoves on you to prove that your followers were denied voting, and the tribunal ruled that these allegations by Atiku and the PDP were not proved beyond reasonable doubt. How else? That's my question. How can a petitioner prove beyond reasonable doubt that there have been voter suppression in some states or in some voting polling centers?
Until we'll amend our electoral act, it will be difficult to prove. You know why? Because when you allege voter suppression, if you allege crime against the police, for example, you must name those people who committed those crimes in that petition.
Right.
Otherwise, because you need to give them opportunity to hear their own side of the story. Otherwise, they will knock off those paragraphs against those persons because they are not there to defend themselves.
Let me hold you a bit, Liboro, so we can welcome. We couldn't reach out again to Barrister Festus Okoye, but we have joining us Mr. Oluwole Uzi, who is the director, INEC Nigeria Voter Education. He was also very active during the elections on media and everywhere. You're welcome, sir. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. We've had conversations about the elections in February and, the issues around, irregularities at some areas, which, of course, formed some of the issues placed before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal and the access. So, Libora Soshoma is a lawyer joining us also on the show, and he's raised some issues around the fact that if a petitioner goes to the tribunal to claim there were irregularities, he needs documents from INEC to then back up his claim. However, INEC also has a duty to protect its integrity and try to prove also that there were no substantial irregularities that affected the election. So for the past election and the judgment of the tribunal, can you tell us that INEC fully cooperated with both parties, that's the APC and the PDP, for their case before the tribunal?
Thank you. Well, let me just quickly point out there were 4 or 5 petitions, presidential petitions. So it was not just Atiku Abubakar or the PDP that filed the petition. There are several petitioners, different petitions. And yes, the INEC Commission cooperated fully with not only the PDP, but all petitioners in the Court of Appeal sitting as the Presidential Tribunal. We cooperated with the court, we cooperated with all petitioners, all parties, because justice is not just for one side, justice for all sides, and we try to do justice fully in accordance with the law. People applied for certified true copies of documents. Sometimes it took time because we had to get the documents from all over the country. And sometimes you have different tribunals asking for the same documents. So sometimes it did take time, but otherwise there was full cooperation, not just from the Court of Appeal as the presidential hearing, presidential petition, but all the 36 states had tribunals, and we cooperated fully with all of them.
Okay, one of the biggest issues also from the tribunal, of course, was the certificate issue of the president. And, questions asked by the court and also by Nigerians would be, what really is a requirement for a candidate to be able to participate in the election? These formed big argument over the past few months. But what the law says is that the person has to have school leaving certificate or its equivalent. So,
no, correct point of correction. It does not say that you must have a school living certificate. It doesn't say so.
What does
the
it say?
Constitution is very clear, and the Constitution we've operated as this Constitution for over 20 years, and it hasn't changed in that regard. Basically, it says that you have to be educated up to secondary school certificate level, up to. It doesn't say you must possess a certificate, and it goes on. That section is also defined. I think it's 131 of the Constitution. Section 318 of the Constitution is a definition section. It defines several terms used in that document. And it defines what education up to secondary school certificate means. And basically, the ability to read and write the English language is acceptable to the Constitution. So when people do this, people don't seem to understand that. It was not the tribunal saying anything about that. The tribunal quoted the definition section of the Constitution. Right. And that's when it said the president was eminently qualified. The truth of the matter is that...
because he could read and write. That's right.
If you can read and write the English language. If you've attended primary school and you can read and write, that's acceptable. There's several definitions,
right?
And that is one of those definitions. It's a very low qualification. And people seem to forget that at the time there was an attempt to actually amend that section before the National Assembly.
Yes.
And I remember that they said you have to have a degree or first degree, BSc, BA, or HND or equivalent. But regrettably, for some people, that did not pass through the National Assembly, so that was never amended. And so the hullabaloo is really, really unnecessary because people don't seem to understand how low the educational qualification is for the office of president. And he's the commander-in-chief. Ironically, to get into any of the armed forces now, I understand that you need five O levels. You need a certificate, and you need to have attended school for 5 O levels. But the commander-in-chief does not need that. That is what the Constitution says. Right. If Nigerians are unhappy about it, they probably have to amend the Constitution. You don't throw barbs at judges or the commission or any other person.
Mr. Oluwole, let me ask you this. So after the election, INEC had a review of the election, and commissioners from around the country gathered in Abuja, and discussions were held. Where were they? Just highlight briefly for us some of the key recommendations or conclusions of the review of the last election.
Well, the review consisted of not just commissioners from all over the country, but electoral officers in all the 774 local governments of the country. Right. It also includes stakeholders, the media, civil society. We're in Abuja and in Lagos, and there's wide consultations. Lots of issues were raised. The Commission is considering all these issues and will publish its findings and its recommendations. And we have said we'll fully cooperate with the National Assembly for those things that require legislative intervention. But some are administrative, some are how we can improve our processes. The issue of logistics was discussed, and we are determined. We must research our determination to find a permanent cure, if you may, on this. There are issues of these sophisticated means that we have had to use, like the quality of ballot paper has to be like security features have to be like currency. We have to move them like currency is moved with armed security men exporting those things and stuff like that. We have to customize things so that they don't take ballot papers or balloting instruments from one state or one local government to another for one. Some of these things. So we look, how can we possibly improve some of those things that are within our purview? And that is part of what we're coming up with strategies for those. And some of those innovations will be evident in the Bayelsa and Kogi governorship elections. But the ones that require legislative intervention, then we'll probably have to engage with the National Assembly and Executive to see how we can get those things through. Since we've heard from a cross-section of Nigerians, all critical stakeholders, security agencies, the media, CSOs, women groups, PWDs, all segments of society.
Okay, let me hold you both a bit so we go on a very quick break. When we come back, the big topic you've been waiting for, which is the server issue. Nigerians are still frowning about that, but the petition tribunal has given its judgment about the issue regarding the server. We'll be having this conversation right after the break. We have on the line Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi, who is with us, and also Liboros Oshoma is also with us over the phone. We'll be back shortly just after the break, and then we'll be reading your messages on Facebook, on YouTube, on WhatsApp 08095975805, Twitter at Nigeria Info FM, and of course we will be taking some calls. That will be just after this break. Kindly hold the line, gentlemen. We'll be back with you shortly. Nigeria, this is a morning Crossfire. I am Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.
From your number one talk news and sports station, this is the morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff. number one talk news and sports station. This is the Morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff.
This is the Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.
And we've been having a full conversation looking at the past election, the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, and of course issues that were raised during that judgment. Liboros Oshoma is with us via the phone. Liboros, thank you for holding the line.
My pleasure.
We also have Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi, who is the Director of Publicity and Voter Education, INEC. Thank you also for joining us, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Now, let's move on to the server issue. And why did this conversation start? Which is one of the things, the PDP especially hammered on during the tribunal sittings about believing that there was electronic transmission of results during the election. And why did this come up? Just before the election, remember that an INEC official said, we have on tape, especially Mr. Mike Igini in this recording, said, gave out a process through which the voting was going to happen and how the server would be used to collate and transmit election results. I'm going to play that audio to you right now, that we can have a conversation around it. Here you go.
What we are going to do on Saturday in each of the polling units, and we have trained people for that, is that unlike before where you have only one collation officer, we are now having two collation officers at the ward level. And this is how they are going to go about it. First, the presiding officer, we have to impute the result into the card reader, and we send it straight away to the central server. When we get to the central server, we have what we call the e-collation officer and the manual collation officer, because what we are still doing the manual collation process as required under Section 73 of the Electoral Act that talks about step-by-step recording. But what we have done to bring about transparency, openness to issues about the results declared at the polling unit now being at variance at the work collation center, we now have two collation officers for the first time at the work collation center. What you call the RATEC, or the e-collation officer, and the manual collation officer. So what happened is that after I have sent that data as a presiding officer, the cameraman and yourself, you are the two collation officers. Before I get to you, without talking to me, without any form of communication, we have granted you access to our central server. You will see what I have transmitted without talking to me. Therefore, it is not expected that on my way to the work collation center, I could do anything funny with the form EC8A, because we now have evidence tray. The fact that I'm aware that at the polling unit, the same result is there, the duplicate have been given to the party agent, I have transmitted the central server without talking to me, both of you have seen that result. By the time I get to the work collation center, it will be taken away from me as a presiding officer. The e-collation officer will have to confirm whether what is on the result sheet is the same thing I have transmitted in the presence of party agent, duly accredited observer, sent to the central server. It is only after that confirmation that the manual collation officer are required by law, we have to.
All right, Nigeria, there you go. So that, before the election, seemed a very passionate explanation. The video is available online. You can find it, where he explained, how the result will be collected and transmitted to avoid malpractice. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi. However, at the petition tribunal, the counsel to INEC, Yunus Usman, said emphatically that INEC had no server. Can you clarify to us? Does INEC have a server? Was it used for the elections or not?
Let's be fair on this. You have decided to play one interview, but you are aware, I believe you are aware, that the chairman of the commission, in a subsequent interview before the election, did state that there will be no electronic transmission.
Just hold on a minute and let me play that to you also.
With you in many other areas. We are pioneering, and we hope to deploy in the 2019 general elections a new platform for electronic collation and transmission of results.
So there you go. That was the INEC chairman subsequently. However, Mr. Guinea had made that statement, which is why I started by saying this is what started the issue around the server. One INEC official saying emphatically that there was going to be transmission of results.
That is not
Are you saying he was speaking for himself?
I didn't say so. That is not what started. This thing has been on for a while. Put this thing in context. The National Assembly had passed the Electoral Amendment Bill, and part of it said that results should be transmitted electronically.
Right.
But all Nigerians know that that bill was not assented to by the president, so it never became law. In anticipation, the commission started making arrangements. We didn't want to be caught on our ways. We were actually ready to implement the law as is at the time of election.
Right.
So we had gone ahead, just like now people are talking about diaspora voting. It's not law yet, but we are practicing, we are piloting, we're doing things so that when it becomes law, we'll be in a position to interpret and implement the law. That's the law of the land. We're a creation of the law. We're a creation of the Constitution. So once the National Assembly passes a bill and is assented by the president, it becomes law and it's operative, except it says it will operate at a later date. So we said, look, if this is going to be done, we have to do certain things. So we started to work on it and saying, this is what we will do. Up to a few days to the election, we had hoped that this will become, well, not hope, we thought it will become law. We thought, because initially, don't forget, the bill had gone up, down, and the president raised some observations and said, I will not attend to it because of this, that. The National Assembly said they have cured those things and sent it back. So we had to prepare for it. But when it was evident that it was not going to become law, we now had to revert to what the law says now. The law does not recognize electronic transmission of results. It prescribes a way that it should be transmitted. I said, you fill a form, and after the elections are declared at the polling unit, you fill the form ECHA. You take it to the ward collation, and you fill a form ECHB, and so on and so forth, until you get to Abuja. And that's why we had to wait. It took a couple of days for all the state's results to come to Abuja, to be announced in Abuja, to be collected in the ECHA. And that is the declaration for.
Mr. Oluwale, I hear you, and we hear you loud and clear. But I have a direct question, to you. In anticipation for the signing of that Electoral Amendment Act, you have prepared. You have everything all lined up, right? And Mr. Igini said that, it's not really sure. It's just to ensure transparency. The manual, recording of, voting will still go on as usual, which I'm guessing is what you said INEC did. But my question is, was there still electronic transmission of results, even though you did not use that one? But was it still done? Was transmission done electronically?
We complied with what the law required, and the law said it should be done manually, and that is what we did, and this was the evidence before the tribunal. So the tribunal could not rule any other way. The tribunal cannot rule, and don't forget, they said they've got an expert witness that we have a server. Name the server, give particulars of that server. It's like saying you have a car, a particular car, a Toyota Land Cruiser with a specific reference number. But when it came to giving evidence, on social media, it was all I watched on social media and mainstream media.
Yes.
But when it came to giving evidence, not one jot of evidence was led in that direction. Instead, they called somebody who said he was an expert. And they said, look, good, you're able to get to the server. I said, no, he cannot. He doesn't know of any server. He could not get it to any server. So they asked him, where did you get your evidence from that these results that they were created by the petitioners? And he said he got it from the website, not the server. He said he got it from a website, factsonline.com. Apparently, it was a big lie because that website was set up after the presidential results. So if you had a server, it would be assumed that you're getting information real time as it was being transmitted.
And the website should have been up before the election.
Yes, it would have been up. But the website was created after the election by an unknown person, an unknown group. That was the feelings of it. People don't seem to understand that. That was the evidence before the tribunal. Contrary to what they were telling us on social media, that they will do this, they will call the MSQ number, this number, and this is a reference number, and they will call experts from Microsoft and those other people who deal with the server. We did not hear or see any evidence of that. Instead, they called somebody with dubious qualifications in terms of expertise from Kenya.
Let me ask you about the money. So in anticipation of the fact that the amendments to the Electoral Act could have gone through, INEC had a budget of 1.7 billion naira specifically for the budget. So I'll be asking you, was this money released? If it was and the server was not used, has the money been returned, or what's happening to the 1.7 billion naira?
Well, all budgeted monies that were utilized were accounted for. Those that were not utilized have been necessary processes will go ahead with the Accountant General and the General of the Federation. Now, the issue is that don't forget we have piloted things. We have tried to do things in off-cycle elections. We have done that, and we get so to Nigeria. So, the process of budgeting, you budget an estimation for what you will spend on certain things. Certain monies were used and they were judiciously utilized.
So the monies that were not used, have they been returned, or when exactly would they be returned?
I am not aware of any money that was not used, but certainly money that is not used is automatically returned to the Treasury of the Federation.
Liboros, you've been on the line for a while. The phone lines are buzzing. I'm sure Nigerians want to jump on this. But let's move forward and then see for 2023. I mean, we all were here during the election coverage, and Nigerians were asking why the process is still so hard to go through, and the conversations around then having electronic voting. So the question is, you think for 2023, INEC could prepare within the next 4 years that we could have smoother elections and maybe electronic? We've had conversations around using USSD, and all the options available. What do you say to this?
Yeah. Thank God my big brother, Mosaze, is there in the studio, and he'll be able to take it. Sorry, he's on the line.
Yeah.
He'll be able to help me take this message. I don't think, even if the Electoral Act is amended today, that if INEC does not start preparation earnestly, they will be able to meet the demand and yearnings of electronic voting. Reasons being that, like they say, the end of one election cycle begins, the round of another election cycle.
Right.
The card readers that we are currently shouting and crying now, those card readers are not as effective as we think them to be. Let me give you an instance. When ATM machines were first deployed in Nigeria, we had a mass stripe card like the INEC voters card that you have now. Mass stripe cards over time, were cloned and failed. And so we brought the chip-based cards. Until date, we still have not been able, even though, we are perfecting the ATM machine every day, but we still have not been able to perfect a situation where the ATM machine would debit you and will not fund you. The card reader does the same thing. A situation where you have 10 registered voters, the card reader verifies all 10. But at the back end of the card reader, it only registers 5. 5 on register. You won't know until the end of the voting. So if you were transmitting results electronically on the feed, card reader would transmit 5 only, because he didn't record the other 5, even though he registered them. And at the end of the day, when you get to the tribunal, you're going to have difficulty in proving. You say, card reader report showed that it was only 5 people that were registered, but you had 10 people that voted. And so there is need for us to improve that device called card reader that we are using. Because over time we have seen that it has failed. And then another issue the petitioners usually have is they just rely on the parts that was captured. They forget also there are also devices on the card reader where you have failure to capture. Because the card reader verifies a card, and once it verifies a card, it does not record anything.
Right.
It is only when it captures your biometric that it records. When it fails to capture your biometric but still register your card, recognize your card, you are allowed to vote by the provisions of the law.
That's right.
But if you are transmitting information via card reader, petitioners will only be consigned with the numbers that is verified, forgetting also that the numbers that are unverified but whose name are on the register and their card have been recognized are voting.
So we have issues at the back end of those card readers.
Yes, so these are the issues that, if not properly sorted out, will create more troubles for this electronic system. And then internet. How many of these villages do we have, real line, online internet, and even electricity? Because election must hold in every nook and cranny of Nigeria.
Right.
In some cases, do you remember during registration and voting, we had to even donate generators to INEC officials to be able to work in places where election didn't start properly.
Right.
So all of these are problems. Thank God they met some civil societies were there, and I also presume that some of these issues have been raised. But for those of us in the field, these are the new issues that are coming up in the course of review that we also need to put forward so that INEC will take all of them holistically
and deal with them. Okay, let me hold you a bit, Liboros. Messages are all over the place. Let me read some from WhatsApp. We have a comment in here from Henry who says, to work as a sales boy, storekeeper, or even an errand boy in a small firm, you need OND, BSc, or at least school cert. But to be president of Nigeria, just learn how to read and write English. Well, that's what the law says right now.
Can I answer that question?
Yes, please.
You see, this is not INEC's fault, really.
Absolutely, it's not. It's the law.
Yes, that's the position of the law. I had told somebody once, you want to work in a private organization, they say you need 2-1 certificate
and 5 years experience
and all of that. But to be president of Nigeria and commander-in-chief, in the opinion of INEC, you can read and write. But funny how things flip. In the case of Wike and Dakuku, the PDP's argument then was that card reader cannot be used to verify the outcome of an election. The APC's case was that the number of actual voters was more than the number of card readers reports.
But you've explained what the back end challenges were. Let me read the comment from Chike from Ebute Meta. Okay, very quickly, we need to go to the phone lines.
Please, let me just allow me.
Yes, please, go ahead.
And I'm trying to give you scenarios. And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court held that for you to determine overvoting, it must be the voters register. Then on the issue of certificates, in Osun State, the PDP's argument then was that Adeleke, even though sat for WAEC, but had F9 parallel, and so was not qualified. And the Supreme Court held that the law did not even require him to pass a paper. All he just required was a school cert, and he had fulfilled those requirements. But now, in this same issue now, the court is saying that this is the position of the law. So what we should be thinking of is how do we amend that law?
Absolutely.
So that at the end of the day, you remove the discretion of who should read and write from INEC, and then let's have a proper definition
of it. All right, let me go to WhatsApp. Chike from Ebute Meta says, so the computers the INEC officials came with to the voting centers were for what? That's the question there. Wemimo kindly ask the INEC representatives in the studio to inform Nigerians if card readers will be mandatorily used in Bayelsa and Kogi. Mr. Oluwole, would there be mandatory use of card readers at the next election?
Yes, there usually is mandatory use of card readers because of the liberals explained what the card reader does. We must ascertain whether the card that the voter has brought is a genuine INEC card. That's the first thing the card reader does. So yes, it will be used. But in terms of accreditation, we still must comply with what the law says and what the law recognizes.
Right. Abu from Oshodi on WhatsApp also said, I was at Oshodi local government last week to request for replacement of my damaged PVC and others who also came for the collection of their card. We were told that INEC stopped them from attending for card. What do you mean? So, is that still continuous pickup of PVCs? Can people, register and pick up their cards?
It was suspended just before the general elections. It will be recommenced sometime soon. We'll make a date. We'll make that date publicly, declared publicly soon.
Okay.
Let me take this message from Marcos Mbakwe on Facebook. Marcos said it is perjury to submit documents knowing full well this is erroneous false. The certificate saga that was said to be with military authority was denied by them, yet this was upheld. All the 5 judges were saying, I agree, not a single one disagreed. This was a script being played out that day. That's from Marcos Mbakwe.
Can I quickly answer that?
Yes,
please.
The military did not come to the tribunal. They did not come there to say so. That's the mistake many Nigerians make. The military secretary and military board did not come there to say so. But even then, the issue of certificate did not arise because he did not present a certificate, so INEC does not need to. That's what the law says presently.
Right.
Let's answer the question about the computers and laptops that were brought to the voting centers. A comment here asking, what were they for, since there was
computers were not brought to the voting centers. No, that's incorrect. No computer was brought to the voting center by any INEC official.
There you go. Let's head to the phone lines and squeeze in some calls quickly. Let's see who's here.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
is
to
that Wemimo?
Yeah, this is Wemimo. Yes,
yes,
sir. You're welcome.
Wemimo,
Yes, sir.
My name is Abia. Adia, I'm calling from Lekki.
You're welcome to the show.
Yes. Let me tell you the truth. You see, in early democratic arrangement of 1999,
yes, please.
Femi Fani-Kayode was against Obasanjo. He was talking. At the end of the day, the later part, he was appointed as a minister in this country. And that is what Festus Keyamo did also.
Okay, can we get to it quickly? Can we get to the point quickly? We have other people on the line.
Yes, let me tell you, liberals, I like liberals. Now he's throwing the part of Femi Kayode and Festus Keyamo.
Oh, I see.
And one day they will appoint him as a minister.
I see.
Wemimo,
oh, goodness.
Wemimo,
yes, please.
Wemimo, quickly. I cannot say amen to that prayer. Never.
Why not?
You know why? Olanik Peku never served in government. He's a lawyer. He's a made lawyer.
Yeah.
Olanik Peku never served. Afe Babalola never served in government. I'm a professional. The problem with Nigerians is that we fail to look at the areas we need to look at. The position of the law is what I'm clearly stating to you.
And which Nigerians should be agitating a change of if they need it to change. Let's get to the phone quickly.
Right.
Victor has been on the line for a while. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Our guests in the studio, good morning. And everybody in the studio. My own contribution is that the man said that the INEC, the money that they budgeted for INEC was enough for the election. Why is it that the INEC still owe the adult staff? And when the adult staff went for the money, it was a cause of violence. So, and he said that they were not owing anybody and the money was enough for them. So why is it that INEC didn't pay the adult staff until when the adult staff went for protection?
All right, Victor.
Yet they didn't pay them.
All right, Victor.
Mr. Oluwole, that's a great question there. We had protests among adult staff during the election. Have they been paid now? Are they still being owed?
No. I'm not aware that any adult staff has not been paid. All adult staff were paid.
I'm aware that so many are still being owed.
One or two may have had problems with their bank details because we pay through their bank. We pay cash. So if you, for example, you say my name is Mr. Lolo Osaze and I bring accounts showing Dr. ZYLZ, they will not be paid because there's a discrepancy. So if you had discrepancy, then there was an incident in Lagos where money came from an unauthorized source. The unauthorized source in the sense that it will appear politicians tried to breach our ad hoc staff and give them extra money. So one word we're complaining that so-and-so got X amount, we got Y. Why is the discrepancy? Apparently, it was illegal funds, bribe money. That's what we were trying to do. So that was in Lagos State when we investigated that. So these are the issues for anybody who complained that they were never paid.
Liberals, very quickly, because we're out of time, let me just ask you this quickly, and I need a very short answer to this. So the president is yet to sign the Election Amendment Act. And, elections are still far away, but then we have off-cycle elections still coming up. What's your take on this in the signing of the Election Amendment Act?
I think the president has said we should postpone that amendment till after election. Now is the time for us to be calling on the president to assent to that amendment. Let's start from there, so that we can INEC can test run some of these new provisions in the cycle election. But now, you see the problem, we have all gone to sleep. We folded our hands. Nobody's talking about the Electoral Act amendment again until you have a presidential election around the corner. It is very bad. That is the problem I have with most Nigerian critics.
Right, let's take a final call, please, from Ferdinand.
Sorry.
I'll have to hold you a minute, Liboros, please. He's been on the line for a while. Ferdinand, good morning.
Sorry, Liboros.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Liboros and all the guests.
Morning.
Good morning, Ferdinand.
Yeah, the truth is that I'm worried, for this question must be answered. The 1.7 billion budgeted for server for the election is a very clear thing, and we have not had a good answer even from the official that is on the studio, because for his sensitive position, he couldn't have known by now whether that money has been remitted back to a Nigerian treasury or not. So that is why we are concerned.
So is asking again about the 1.7 billion naira budgeted for this server. And also there's a comment on Twitter from Joy Forever. Let's put that together. Who says we are not economical with the truth. INEC has Okay, I think it means INEC is storing data somewhere, but they said they don't have server to store ordinary results. Mr. Oluwole knows the truth, but he's defending their office. So, good, two questions together very shortly. So, where is the data of the voters stored if there is no server? And secondly, the budget for the server, 1.7 billion naira. Again, reiterating that question, has it been returned if it was not used?
I don't know about 1.7 billion. I think it's a Appropriation Act, a public document. Anybody can go and ascertain the exact figure, how much of the figure. I'm not a director of finance, so I cannot speak of every little thing about the commission. But what I do know is that all monies duly budgeted for were utilized for purposes that they were supposed to be utilized for. People just say, we don't have a server for results. Any of the things that stores data. It can be in cloud, it can be a physical server, and we do store data. I'm not a technical person. I don't know where all the data is, but I know that we do use cloud, store a lot of information and data that we process.
If the data is stored in cloud, is it safe? I mean, isn't it easy to access cloud?
Obviously, you're not a technical person, neither am I. But yes, cloud is the safest place to store data.
Not so. Cloud is not the safest place to store data.
Cloud can be hacked, as
can
a matter of fact.
Very easily.
The server can be hacked. Everything can be hacked.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
So please.
Okay, we must go now. Thank you both for joining. Liboras, we're absolutely out of time.
We need to go.
So
we
sorry,
really have to go.
But we are out of time. Liboras Oshoma is a constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight. And also, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi is the Director of Publicity and Voter Education, INEC. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you.
Nigeria, we will be back tomorrow morning with another topical issue. We expect about 319 Nigerians to return today from South Africa, the second batch. And we'll be talking about this tomorrow. We'll try to get to you, some of the returnees, some of those who returned last week, to come on the show and share their experiences with you. That will be tomorrow morning. But after the break, Tunji Andrews will be here with money, business, and economy. Thanks to Zainab Yakin, Tosia Kenry, Dave for assisting. I am Wemimo Adewuni. See you tomorrow.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. Do have a good one.